review of Little Women, which, I mean, I'm sure I'm about to reiterate some things that we say in the review, which we recorded this a while ago, kind of right after we had seen it. But I was surprised in how much I liked this movie, but still disappointed that Greta Gerwig didn't get a Best Director nomination, and still think it's a, no pun intended, joke that Todd Phillips got it over her. So
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we've got a great review coming up for Little Women, so here it is.
All right, next up we've got Little Women. This is going to be a spoiler review, by the way, everybody. There's been like 7 or 8 iterations of this book into film, and the book's been around forever, so we're going to go into just straight spoilers here. So, Little Women, it's the second movie directed by Greta Gerwig, her first being Lady Bird from, was it last year or 2 years ago? Last year, all right. Seeing if she hits a sophomore slump here. I don't think she did. I love this movie. It stars Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, the girl, I always get her name wrong, Florence Pugh, Laura Dern, who is also in Marriage Story this year. Good year for her. Timothy Chalamet. A bunch of other people in this as well, but those are the big hitters. But yeah, what did you think of Little Women?
I thought it was really good. When we talked about this in the trailer, I mentioned that I haven't read the book, I haven't seen any other movies or versions of this, so having absolutely no reference, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I really, really liked this movie. I have seen the 1994 version with Winona Ryder as Jo and Christian Bale as Laurie, which Winona Ryder got an Oscar nomination for that one. I think this is better. I think Greta Gerwig takes a movie that's been done a zillion times and still puts her own spin on it in a certain way, which we can get into because I know you haven't seen any other version of it. But I think this was fantastic. The acting is great. The costumes are amazing. Just the setting in general.
Costume, set design was all so good.
So yeah, basically, I mean, the premise, if you don't know it, is it's 4 sisters growing up in the 1800 Civil War time.
Yeah, it's like towards the end and then a few years after the Civil War.
Yeah. So they're growing up together, and then Timothy Chalamet plays their neighbor, Theodore Lawrence, who goes by Laurie, and it's just kind of their lives over the years. I know the book was published in 2 versions, one being their childhood, and then the second part was like the 4 years later aspect of it. But I think this movie holds true to the novel pretty well from what I've heard, while kind of putting a modern-ish spin on it as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what like I said, having no reference, I try not to look at too many other reviews before we do our own, but just with this one, I did want to see what other people's perspective is with them knowing the story better, and seeing, previous versions of this. And yeah, I've heard that it's a great modern retelling of the story, and that the version that Greta Gerwig gives us is I've heard nothing bad about it. And I've even heard some people say I never liked, not that they didn't like the character, but they didn't connect with certain characters. Someone said specifically, I've never really understood Amy, and the way that Greta told the story this time, I really felt for her and understood her perspective. And so it's cool that she was able to make enough changes where it felt different and it gave people different reactions and emotions, but still true to the original story.
Yeah, so you just brought up a couple great points and big things that she did. So one of the big things that she did differently was the story, the timeline. So in the book and the movie from '94 that I've seen, it's linear, right? Starts them young, ends with them old. Where in this movie, she goes back and forth between the 2 different timelines, which I loved, and that's some things that most people have liked. I know you said you haven't heard any negatives. One of the few things I've heard is some people, maybe they're really hardcore in love with the books or the older movies, they didn't love that time back and forth because it gives away, one of the first lines you hear in the movie is Amy talking to Laurie saying, "Oh, I'm sorry that Joe turned you down." So right away you know that Joe and Laurie don't end up together. And that's some things, maybe they're the book purists, but they didn't like that. But I loved it because it can establish things, right? Like as the present day Joe is going through things, it'll flash back and maybe give an explanation to it, which I like.
Yep.
Plus, a thing that I really liked about it is one of the few criticisms that I've heard of from the movie and the older movies and the book is, so Joe turns down Laurie and then kind of randomly falls in love with this older gentleman who shows up 3/4 of the way through the book, and then she just says yes to him proposing. People are like, why would you marry this guy that you barely know?
Yeah.
Where I like what Greta did is you get introduced to him right away. He's almost the second character you get introduced to in the movie.
We know about him before we know about Laurie.
Yeah, like you see him from start to finish. So when he shows up at the end and kind of wins her over, it isn't as big of a surprise because you've known him the whole movie.
Yeah, it makes a little more sense. It fits together pretty well.
So I really liked that. And also you brought up Amy's character. In the movie in 94, in the book, she's kind of just a brat who ends up marrying Laurie in the end because Laurie wants to be a part of the March family. Whereas in the Greta's retelling, you're right, it gives her some motivation or some explanation to the way she acts. Like when she's in Paris, she has that speech to Laurie of like, don't talk to me about marriage being, an economic proposal or whatever, because women don't have as many professional careers out there, job opportunities, so marriage is 100% economic thing.
Yeah, because she's like, I can't have my own job outside. Anything that I earn belongs to my husband. Any children that I have belong to my husband. So yeah, I think that was a really, and yeah, I feel like that's the scene. I mean, it was a great scene. It was so good, and it's, of course, she's in this like art studio in Paris, so of course like the setting is just like beautiful to begin with. But yeah, that scene was really powerful, and I think that's what a lot of people point to, like, okay, this scene made me understand who Amy is. Yeah, no, which I don't think watching the movie 94, I don't think that does it at all. So the thing that I think Greta does great is she gives a little more depth to these characters. Yeah, and it's, each sister is different, and they each want something different with their life, but at the end, they all have and they all want variations of the same thing. Like, each sister has their own unique, like, artistic talent. Like, Joe's a writer, Amy's a painter, Meg really likes acting, like, Beth plays a piano. Like, they all have these different artistic interests that that are part of them, and they all, have these desires for, like, their family and their relationships, and they're very different, but at the same time, you can see, like, they all have very similar ambitions. Yeah. No, which is cool. I like that about the movie, and I liked what they did with Meg, Emma Watson's character, because she's the one who likes all the rich things in life and then marries a poor man and has a happy life and kids with her in the book and older iterations of the movie. But in this one, they kind of gave her a little more depth too. Yes, she does love the rich things in life. She does end up marrying a poor person. But what they did in this movie that, from what I can tell, they haven't done before is they kind of gave some friction there in the marriage. So she's living a poor life, but still wants some of the rich things in life, and her husband fight over that. But then in the end, she does say, okay, I don't need any of that stuff anymore. All I need is you. That stuff wasn't there in the older movie. It was just she had a happy life with him. I like that they gave some friction there and a little bit more, I don't want to say motivation, but like she was motivated by the rich things in life so much. It was nice to see that it was a bit of a struggle for her to let it go, because that's more realistic to me. Oh, yeah, exactly. What did you think of Emma Watson in this movie, I guess, by the way? Because you had some doubts going into it, right? I had doubts on her American accent. She's obviously a great actress, and, I noticed her accent only every once in a while, but it wasn't a big deal, and honestly, I feel like there were a number of people, because this is still, like, somewhat early on in American civilization, like, and they're on the East Coast too, so I think they're just like, everyone talks in a little bit of a strange accent anyway, so it didn't bother me. It was fine.
Okay, all right. Glad
Over that hump, it was fine.
Glad we got that out of the way.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What are some things, I've been talking for a while, what are some things you liked or didn't like in this movie?
You bring up the like flash, like the timeline kind of goes back and forth between the present and the past. I really like that because, like you said, they, and Amy's in Paris, and well, one, you find out, okay, Amy's the one that ends up going to Paris. Like, how does that happen? And Joe turns down Laurie. Like, oh, okay, like you're already interested. Like, okay, something's gonna happen. Like, how are we gonna get there? So I really liked that aspect of it. But I will say there were some moments where I'm like, wait, what timeline are we in right now? Like, I did get confused once or twice, but it didn't matter.
You're right. Like, I could see going back and forth between timelines, that's always a risk. You might get lost in it because it's the same actors and actresses in both timelines. Sometimes if you have a younger cast and an older cast, obviously you'd be able to tell which timeline you're in. That didn't happen here. But I'll say I actually thought it was kind of cool. I don't know if maybe you didn't notice, but whenever they were in the past, it was brighter.
Oh, okay.
And when they were in the present, it was darker and gloomier. Mm-hmm. So I could always tell which timeline we were in just based on how it looked.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool and something I had to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should have pointed out, or maybe it wasn't as obvious I thought it was, but...
I was fine until, like, the dad became involved. Bob Odenkirk played the dad in this, because I got confused at one point, because... Like I thought in the, like, old timeline is when they're talking about, like, oh, like, here's where dad is, and then, in the current timeline, like, the flash forward, that's when you find out, like, Beth is sick, but then, like, the dad, like, I was, once the dad was involved, I got confused, and I'm like, wait, I thought he was there, now he's back, like, so that was confusing to me, but it was really just... Like I said, it was like 2 or 3 scenes where I'm like,
so that's where the two timelines were kind of meeting.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think I'm a little confused, but like I said, it wasn't like distracting from the story or anything. I just kind of thought, wait, am I in the right spot? Maybe not. Oh well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cast was so good, like top to bottom. Like everyone, it was great. It was so visually appealing. Like the houses that they lived in, and when Amy's in Paris with her rich Aunt March, like everyone just like so dressed up, and it's just so beautiful. Everyone's just like in their parasols in France, and it's just, it was really visually appealing. I thought Laura Dern was better in this than she was in Marriage Story. Everyone was so good in this.
Mm-hmm. Would you think great cast. They even have Chris Cooper in this movie as the
Mr. Lawrence. He's Laurie's grandfather.
Grandfather, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was great in this because that was
so good.
That was another character that they really fleshed out, like, his character and motivations a lot, because by the start of the movie, he's kind of like that old curmudgeon-y man, but then he warms up to the girls a little bit. And him and Beth, like, all those scenes together, because he invites her over to play the piano that hasn't been touched in forever, and he has that scene where he, like, sits around the corner just to hear her play, and she doesn't know he's there. And then, really sad scene, unfortunately, after Beth passes away and Joe comes home and sees... Mr. Lawrence outside the house, and he's just like, I can't go inside, like, I can't, you know what I mean? Like, they really gave emotion and everything to that character, whereas in, like, the 1994 version, I think that character had 3 scenes.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, I thought Chris Cooper and the writing behind his character was phenomenal in this version as well.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said, like, all of the characters were they were all really well drawn out, and they just played off of each other so well. Yeah,
which is a testament, to the writing and directing, which Greta did both on this. Yeah. I mean, she's 2 for 2 in her movies so far. I loved Lady Bird, and She wrote and directed that one, and I thought this was phenomenal. And she
And so
wrote and
do you
directed
think she's got a chance for directing or screenplay nominations?
I think screenplay should be hands down for sure.
Because I'm not sure what else is out there for adapted screenplays right now, but
yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but like this was so good. Like, she better, like she has to. And I'll be honest, I think she should get a Best Directing nomination too. Because the 4 locks in that category are kind of 3 locks and 1 almost lock. The 3 locks are Scorsese
for The Irishman.
Yep, for The Irishman. Sam Mendes for 1917.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yes, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. The almost lock and probably will get nominated as Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. So this year is such a strong year for directing. There's only 1 spot left open. A lot of people are putting Noah Baumbach in there for Marriage Story.
Nah.
There were a couple scenes that I thought were good, those long shots, but Greta was so good in this, this movie was so good in her direction and everything in it. I would give it to her, especially, like, you gotta break up that boys club a little bit too, right? Like, she's well deserving of this nomination. She should get it.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately, I don't think she will, but I think she should.
Yeah. And like I mentioned before, like the costuming, the set design, all that was really good. So I would think they'd get nominations for those categories as well.
Oh, yeah. They'll get all the technical ones. I mean, I think they could get a Best Picture nomination. Saoirse Ronan maybe getting a Best Actress nomination.
Yeah.
She's kind of become a darling in the Hollywood world where she's gotten 3 nominations at this point in her life already. I would think this could be a 4th. I think she got a Globe nomination but not a SAG, so I guess we'll see where that goes. But there's a lot of steam for Florence to get a Best Supporting Actress nomination for this movie, but she hasn't been coming up in any of the other award ceremonies, so I'm not sure if she will. That'd be nice if she would. I mean, I'm kind of rooting for anyone in this movie to get any nomination they can get.
Yeah. What do you think? Well, this is something interesting. So, Little Women is about this American family. All 4 of the girls are played by non-American actresses.
Yeah, that's true.
But do you think the fact that Florence is English, do you think she'd have a better chance at getting a BAFTA?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's the British award, so yeah, I'm sure she would. And if she can get a nomination there, that would help her cause a little bit. I don't know if those nominations have come out yet or when
I haven't seen that they have.
Yeah.
I feel like because that award ceremony is usually pretty close to the Oscars,
Yeah.
so I feel like we may see those after the first of the year.
But yeah, even Timothy Chalamet, like, I loved him in this movie too. I thought he was great as Laurie. Like, I'd love to see him get a Best Supporting Actor nomination. I don't know I doubt that'll happen. That probably won't happen. But like, I'd love to see that too. Yeah. He was great.
And say he was good, and it was nice to see him in something besides like the dark, gloomy, mysterious kind of character.
Yeah, he was still a little gloomy in this one when he got shut down by Joe. He went through that phase of getting drunk and hanging out with all those ladies. So.
But it was like he played a much more jovial character than I've seen him in other stuff. So yeah.
He's just good.
He was great. He's so good.
He hit the scene, and he's been so good in everything he's been in since Interstellar he was in, but
yep.
I mean he was very small role.
Yeah.
But Call Me by Your Name was kind of his breakthrough, and we saw Beautiful Boy, which he was great into.
Oh
so
yeah, that one was really good.
He's just been all
hitting
all
home
around
runs.
Fantastic. Yep. But yeah, the last thing I have to talk about with this movie is I kind of like the ending too. It kind of had a maybe not meta, but a different feel to it. So she has her book published, and they may have it be look like she's writing Little Women, and then she's talking to the publisher, and he's like, what? No, she doesn't end up with either one. So it's kind of funny. They make it seem like she doesn't end up with either one of the guys, because she's like, why would she? This whole book, she's been saying she doesn't want to get married. Why would she end up with one of them? Which has also been a criticism, something of note of the movies in the book, that why would Joe end up with this guy when the whole movie she's been like, I don't want to get married. So it's kind of funny that they do bring that up, and kind of have it fit into the story, but then she does have them actually get together in the end. So I thought that was kind of a interesting ending, kind of funny.
Yeah, and it was so cool seeing them like publish a copy of her book.
That was really cool. Yeah, showing how it works and how it happens. Yeah, go on.
It was really cool because it was just like this, it was just like it was just a musical scene. Like there wasn't any talking, there wasn't any dialogue, and it was just kind of like this overhead shot of this person at the book binding where they have like the leather cover and they stamp it, engrave it, and line up. They show them lining up all of like the letters to print the pages and roll it with the ink and put together this finished bound copy. And I'm like, oh, that was so cool.
That was cool. Yeah, they show them like tearing the paper and like pressing them together to bound them. That was really cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so it was a cool little finish to the movie.
So what score would you give it?
When I first wrote this down, I gave it an 8.3. But like the more we're talking about right now, I'd probably give it like an 8.5. I think I'm thinking bumping it up.
Bumping it up in person. All right. I like it.
Like I said, we watched a number of movies over the week of Christmas, and it's like seeing things one after another. I think it's very easy to just like compare each of them to one another. But now that we're just talking about this one, like in and of itself, I think I'm going to give it a little higher, 8.5.
All right. Sounds good.
What did you give it?
I gave it a 9.1.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, the only reason it isn't higher is like this isn't exactly my type of movie. I can appreciate everything about it and the acting and everything, and it's a 9.1, but it isn't like,
If you're on a Friday night, you're not just like, oh, I'm dying to watch Little Women right now.
Yeah, and it's like the audience is like female led, obviously. That doesn't mean that I can't appreciate it, but it's like for female audiences, they might give this a higher score than I do, but I still appreciate and think it was a fantastic movie. So, 9.1.
Nice.